I opened my eyes and froze. The ceiling, the old room, the faded blue walls. My heart pounded. No, this can't be real. I rushed to the mirror. An 18-year-old boy stared back at me. It was me. I came back. Every painful memory crashed into my mind at once. The years I spent loving Lily. The dreams I built around her. Every sacrifice. Every disappointment. And the lonely ending of my last life. I gripped the sink until my hands stopped shaking. This time, I'm not making the same mistake. That evening, our foster family gathered around the dining table for adoption day. Everyone laughed. Everyone smiled. I remembered this dinner perfectly. Then Lily stood up. I have something to say. The room became quiet. She walked toward Ryan with a small velvet box. Ryan, she said with a bright smile, you're the only real brother I've ever had. She placed the family necklace in his hands. Everyone clapped. Ryan looked surprised. Lily, thank you. You deserve it, she replied. I watched in silence. In my previous life, that moment had shattered me. I had begged for her attention. I had believed I could change her heart. I had been wrong. This time, I simply smiled. Congratulations, I said. The table fell strangely quiet. Lily looked at me. That's all. I nodded. I'm happy for both of you. Ryan frowned. Are you okay? I've never been better. For the first time, I truly meant it. Across the table, Emma kept watching me. There was confusion in her eyes. After dinner, I quietly left the house. The cool night air filled my lungs. I looked up at the stars. My last life ended because I kept chasing someone who never chose me. I smiled to myself. Not anymore. I'll choose myself first. No more begging. No more waiting. No more living for someone else's love. With that single promise, I walked forward without looking back. I didn't know what my future would become, but for the first time in my life, it finally belonged to me. 3 days passed after adoption day. I stayed away from the foster house as much as possible. For the first time, my life felt quiet. I missed no one. I regretted nothing. One afternoon, someone knocked on the door of my tiny apartment. When I opened it, I saw a man in a dark suit. Are you Ethan? He asked politely. I am. My name is Daniel Harper. He handed me a business card. I'm a lawyer. I looked at the card. Daniel Harper, Harrington Family Legal Office. I frowned. I think you have the wrong person. I don't. What do you want? I'd like 5 minutes of your time. I crossed my arms. Fine. He stepped inside and placed a folder on the table. Everything I'm about to tell you is true. I've heard that sentence before. He smiled slightly. I expected that. He opened the folder. There was a tragic car accident 18 years ago. So, a little boy disappeared. I stared at him. And that child was the grandson of William Harrington. I laughed. You came here to tell me a fairy tale? Daniel calmly slid several documents toward me. DNA testing has confirmed your identity. I looked at the papers. Birth records. Hospital reports. DNA results. Everything carried official stamps. This has to be fake. It isn't. I grew up in a foster home. We know. My parents died. We know. I've never even heard the name Harrington. That's because no one wanted you to. I shook my head. This makes no sense. Daniel sighed. I understand your doubts. Just then another knock came from the door. I opened it. Emma stood outside. She looked nervous. Ethan, what are you doing here? I heard someone was looking for you. She noticed Daniel. You already told him? Daniel nodded. Emma slowly looked at me. There was always something strange about your past. What do you mean? She took a deep breath. When we were children, you used to have nightmares. I frowned. You always talked about a big white house. I froze. You remembered a fountain. My heartbeat quickened. You even described a silver pocket watch. Daniel quietly reached into his pocket. He placed an old silver watch on the table. I couldn't breathe. No. Emma's eyes filled with tears. You described that watch years before anyone knew it existed. I looked at Daniel. How did you find this? It belonged to your grandfather. I slowly sat down. Everything felt unreal. So you're saying? Daniel nodded. William Harrington has been searching for you for 18 years. Silence filled the room. Finally, I whispered. Why now? The DNA database finally matched. I covered my face. My whole life. I know. Daniel stood. Mr. Harrington isn't asking for anything. He isn't. He simply wants to meet you. I hesitated. What if I say no? Then nothing changes. And if I say yes? You'll finally learn who you are. The next morning, Daniel drove me to a quiet estate outside the city. Massive gates slowly opened. The mansion was beautiful, but somehow it didn't feel distant. It felt familiar. Daniel smiled. He's waiting. My hands trembled. I don't know what to say. You don't have to prepare anything. The front door opened. An elderly man stepped outside. His hair was white. His eyes looked tired. When he saw me, he stopped walking. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, he smiled. So, his voice shook. You've grown up. I swallowed hard. I guess I have. He nodded. I imagined this meeting thousands of times. So did I. Neither of us knew what came next. Then he quietly laughed. I thought I'd have a speech ready. I thought so too. Instead, he simply walked closer. He didn't hug me. He didn't cry. He only looked into my eyes. I'm sorry. Those two words carried 18 years of regret. I didn't know what to feel. He gently placed a hand on my shoulder. You don't owe me forgiveness. I stayed silent. You don't owe me love. Still silent. When you're ready. He smiled warmly. Come home. That was all. No pressure. No demands. Just an invitation. For some reason, that hurt more than any dramatic reunion could have. A cheerful young woman suddenly appeared from inside the house. She smiled brightly. You must be Ethan. I am. I'm Sophia. She held out her hand. It's nice to finally meet you. I shook it. Nice to meet you too. She laughed. I've waited years to say that. You have. My grandfather never stopped looking for you. She grinned. Don't worry. I'm not here to steal your room. I laughed for the first time in days. She smiled even wider. See, that wasn't so hard. For the first time in my life, being welcomed felt effortless. No conditions. No competition. No need to earn my place. Across town, Lily sat with Ryan in a cafe. I heard Ethan disappeared, one friend said. Lily rolled her eyes. He probably couldn't handle seeing us together. Ryan laughed. I always knew he'd run away. He'll come back eventually. Ryan smirked. Probably looking for another place to sleep. Everyone laughed. Neither of them knew where I was. Neither of them knew who I had just met. While they laughed about my past, my future had already opened its doors. And this time, I was finally ready to walk through them. Moving into the Harrington estate felt strange at first. Every morning I expected someone to tell me I didn't belong. No one ever did. Instead, William knocked on my door on my first morning. Breakfast? I smiled awkwardly. Sure. At the table, Sophia poured me coffee. Sleep well. Better than I expected. Good. William folded his newspaper. So, Ethan. Yes. What do you want to do with your life? The question caught me off guard. I don't know. He nodded. That's an honest answer. I've spent so many years trying to make other people happy. I know. I never really asked myself what I wanted. William smiled. Then it's time you start. I looked at him. You don't expect me to work for the family company? No, you don't. If you earn a place there someday, wonderful. And if I don't, then I'll still be proud of you. His words stayed with me all day. No conditions. No pressure. Just trust. That afternoon, Sophia found me reading alone. What are you studying? A business magazine. She laughed. Starting already? I've wasted enough time. She sat beside me. University applications are still open. I was thinking about finance. Why finance? Because I want to understand how successful people think. Sophia smiled. That's a better reason than wanting money. I don't care about being rich. What do you care about? I answered without hesitation. I want to become someone I'm proud of. She looked at me for a long moment. I think you're already on your way. A few weeks later, I started university. Everything felt new. New campus. New classmates. New future. For once, nobody knew the boy who had spent years chasing Lily. I was simply Ethan. That alone felt freeing. One afternoon, our professor asked a difficult question. I raised my hand. I think the company's biggest mistake was ignoring long-term trust for short-term profit. A student across the room laughed. That's naive. I looked at him calmly. Why? Because money always comes first. Before I could answer, another student stood. I disagree. Everyone turned. My name's Oliver. He faced the class. If customers stop trusting you, the money disappears anyway. The professor smiled. Excellent point. The first student shrugged. I still think profit matters more. Oliver grinned. Then you're thinking like someone who wants quick success, not lasting success. The room became quiet. After class, Oliver caught up with me. You okay? I am. You looked ready to argue. I was. He laughed. You don't have to fight every battle. I used to. And now, I'm learning. Oliver smiled. I think we'll get along. I laughed. So do I. From that day on, we studied together almost every afternoon. We challenged each other, encouraged each other, and for the first time, I had a real friend. One day Oliver looked at me and frowned. What? You laughed differently. I blinked. What does that mean? It sounds real. I stared at him. I guess it is. I realized he was right. In my previous life, every smile had been an attempt to hide disappointment. Now, I laughed because I was actually happy. One evening, William invited me into his office. He pointed toward a chessboard. Play. I don't know much about chess. Perfect. We played for nearly an hour. He defeated me easily. I lost. You learned. There's a difference. A huge one. He reset the pieces. In life, don't focus on winning every move. What should I focus on? Becoming the kind of man who stays calm after losing. I thought about my old life. Back then, every rejection had felt like the end of the world. Now I understood. Strength wasn't avoiding failure. Strength was refusing to let failure define me. Meanwhile, life at the foster home continued without me. Ryan smiled as Lily handed him another donation envelope. Thank you, she said. I know you'll help so many people. I'll do my best. She smiled proudly. I always knew I could trust you. Ryan secretly transferred most of the money into accounts under fake charity projects. Nobody questioned him. Nobody except a few volunteers. Lily, one of them said carefully. The numbers don't seem right. She frowned. What are you suggesting? I just think we should check the records. Her expression hardened. Ryan would never do that. We're only asking. I said enough. The room fell silent. Someone quietly whispered, what if Ethan was right about him? Lily shook her head immediately. Ethan was always jealous. Another volunteer hesitated. Are you sure? She crossed her arms. I've known Ryan for years. And Ethan? He couldn't stand seeing Ryan succeed. Those words would have broken me once. Months ago, I would have rushed over to defend myself. I would have begged her to believe me. Not anymore. When Oliver later mentioned hearing those rumors around campus, I simply shrugged. Doesn't it bother you? I smiled. No. Really. If someone wants to misunderstand me, I picked up my books. That's their choice. Oliver looked impressed. You've changed. I had to. As we walked toward our next class, I felt lighter than ever before. Lily still believed I had been her jealous foster brother. Ryan still believed he had won. Neither of them noticed the truth. Every day, they looked backward. Every day, I moved forward. And with every new lesson, I became someone I had never imagined I could be. The university charity gala arrived sooner than I expected. Oliver adjusted his tie and looked at me. You look nervous. I am. You've survived William's chess lessons. Barely. You'll survive tonight, too. I laughed. I hope you're right. A black car stopped in front of the hotel. William stepped out first. Sophia smiled at me. Ready? I took a deep breath. I think so. William nodded. Remember. What? You don't have to impress anyone. I know. Just be yourself. Those simple words calmed me. We walked through the entrance together. The ballroom sparkled with lights. Students, professors, business leaders, donors. Everyone turned toward William. Whispers spread across the room. That's William Harrington. I heard he's funding the new scholarship program. Who's the young man with him? I've never seen him before. Sophia gently nudged my arm. Relax. I'm trying. You look like you're walking into an exam. This feels harder. She smiled. It isn't. As we continued inside, I noticed a familiar face. Lily. She stood beside Ryan near the donation display. The moment our eyes met, she froze. Her smile disappeared. Ryan looked at me, then looked at William. What? Lily whispered. That's Ethan. Ryan frowned. No way. It is. Neither of them moved. I simply nodded politely before continuing forward. I didn't stop. I didn't hesitate. I didn't look back. For the first time in either life, I wasn't walking toward Lily. I was walking past her. A professor greeted William warmly. Mr. Harrington, thank you for coming. My pleasure. The professor smiled at me. And this young man? William looked at me proudly. You'll hear soon enough. The professor laughed. I'll be waiting. Across the room, Lily couldn't take her eyes off me. I heard her whisper. He looks different. Ryan scoffed. It's just an expensive suit. But he probably borrowed it. She didn't answer. Even from across the room, I could see confusion growing on her face. The evening continued with speeches and fundraising. Then the host walked onto the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, the room became quiet. Tonight we would also like to recognize a very special guest. He smiled toward William. Mr. Harrington. Applause filled the ballroom. William walked onto the stage. He thanked the university. He spoke about education. He spoke about opportunity. Then he paused. I'd like to introduce someone. My heart skipped. He looked directly at me. Ethan. I slowly walked onto the stage. Hundreds of eyes followed me. William placed a hand on my shoulder. A few months ago, my family received a miracle. The room fell silent. We found my grandson. Gasps echoed across the ballroom. William smiled. I'd like everyone to meet Ethan Harrington. Silence. Complete silence. Then applause erupted. People stood. Professors smiled. Students whispered excitedly. I glanced toward Lily. She looked as though the world had stopped turning. Ryan's mouth hung open. He stared at me without blinking. No. I heard him whisper. That's impossible. After the applause faded, guests surrounded William. Congratulations filled the room. A businessman shook my hand. It's an honor to meet you. Thank you. A professor smiled. We're lucky to have you at this university. I'm lucky to be here. Sophia leaned close. You handled that well. I thought I was going to faint. She laughed. I almost believed you. Oliver appeared carrying 2 glasses of juice. You kept that secret from me? I grinned. I only found out recently. He shook his head. I thought your biggest surprise was beating me on the finance exam. This is slightly bigger. I'd say so. We both laughed. Across the ballroom, Ryan finally recovered. He marched toward me. Several students followed. So he said loudly, You've been pretending. I looked at him calmly. Pretending? You expect everyone to believe this story? It's not a story. You probably paid someone. Oliver stepped forward. Watch your mouth. Ryan ignored him. This is all for attention. Before I could answer, William walked over. Is there a problem? Ryan forced a smile. No, sir. William looked directly at him. My grandson doesn't need to pretend to be part of this family. Ryan's face turned pale. William continued. He is my family. Nobody said another word. Ryan lowered his eyes. For the first time since I had known him, he had nothing to say. The gala ended late that evening. Guests slowly left the ballroom. I stepped outside for some fresh air. A soft voice stopped me. Ethan. I turned. Lily stood a few steps away. She looked nervous. I didn't know. I know. She looked at the ground. Why didn't you ever tell me? I smiled sadly. Because you never asked. She looked up. Her eyes filled with emotion. You already decided who I was. I thought. You thought you knew everything about me. She couldn't answer. The silence between us felt heavier than any argument. Finally, she whispered, I'm sorry. I nodded politely. I appreciate that. Can we talk sometime? I looked at the lights shining through the ballroom windows. Then I looked back at her. Maybe. It wasn't anger that stopped me. It wasn't revenge. It was peace. For years I had wanted Lily to notice me. Now she finally did. But the person she regretted losing no longer existed. I smiled gently. Take care of yourself. Then I walked toward William, Sophia, and Oliver. None of them asked me what had happened. They simply welcomed me back with warm smiles. As I climbed into the car, I glanced back one last time. Lily still stood alone beneath the lights. For the first time, I saw regret in her eyes. And for the first time, it no longer belonged to me. A week after the charity gala, life returned to its normal rhythm. I attended classes. I studied with Oliver. I played chess with William. For the first time in years, my days felt peaceful. Then Oliver rushed into the library one afternoon. Ethan, I looked up from my notebook. What happened? You need to see this. He dropped a folder onto the table. What's inside? Financial records. I frowned. From where? Ryan's charity. I blinked. How did you get these? A business ethics professor asked our class to review anonymous financial reports. He pointed at several highlighted pages. Look at these expenses. I scanned the documents. Luxury watches. Designer suits. 5-star hotel bills. None of them had anything to do with charity. These can't be real. I checked them 3 times. I looked at Oliver. So the donations? He nodded. They're disappearing. I leaned back in my chair. I knew Ryan wasn't honest. But this? I never imagined it would be this bad. Oliver folded his arms. Someone else noticed too. Who? Victoria Hayes. The investigative auditor? Yes. She's already asking questions. I quietly closed the folder. The truth is getting closer. 2 days later, William invited me into his office. He noticed the worried look on my face. Something's bothering you. I told him everything. When I finished, he remained silent for a moment. Finally, he asked, "What do you want to do?" "I don't know." "Do you want revenge?" I thought carefully. "No." "Good." He smiled. "Because revenge is noisy." "What do you mean?" "The truth doesn't need shouting." "It doesn't." "No." He moved a chess piece across the board. "A lie must keep defending itself. And the truth? It simply waits." His words stayed with me. Meanwhile, Victoria Hayes continued her investigation. She requested more financial records. She interviewed volunteers. She checked bank transfers. Each answer created more questions. One afternoon, she met with Michael Stone, one of the charity's senior advisors. Victoria placed several documents on the table. "These numbers don't match." Michael adjusted his glasses. "Are you certain?" "I verified them twice." He frowned. "Ryan told us every donation reached its destination." Victoria calmly pointed at a payment record. "Then why was donor money used to buy a luxury car?" Michael stared at the page. "I don't know." "And this vacation?" Silence. "And these private shopping expenses?" Michael rubbed his forehead. "This doesn't look good." Victoria nodded. "No, it doesn't." Ryan noticed the investigation almost immediately. He slammed his office door. "This is ridiculous." One employee spoke carefully. "People are asking questions. They're jealous. What should we do?" Ryan clenched his fists. "Fix the records." "You mean?" "I said fix them." The employee hesitated. "That's illegal." Ryan glared at him. "Do it." Within days, new documents appeared. Old receipts disappeared. Dates changed. Signatures suddenly looked different. Every new lie buried the old ones even deeper. The rumors quickly spread across campus. Students whispered between classes. Professors discussed the investigation quietly. Everyone wanted answers. Everyone except Lily. She refused to listen. During one student meeting, she stood up. "I've had enough." The room became silent. "Ryan has spent years helping people." A volunteer raised her hand. "No one is denying that." "Then why are we attacking him?" "We're asking for transparency." Lily shook her head. "No. Someone is trying to destroy him." Another student asked. "Who?" She looked directly at me. "Ethan." The room turned toward me. I remained calm. She continued. "He wants revenge." I slowly stood. "I've never reported Ryan." She crossed her arms. "But you're happy this is happening." "I'm happy the truth is being examined." "That's not the same." "No, it isn't." Her voice softened. "You've always been jealous." Those words found their target. For just a second, they hurt. Not because I believed them, but because I remembered the boy who once would have cried trying to prove otherwise. That boy was gone. After the meeting, William noticed I was unusually quiet. "What happened?" I told him. He smiled gently. "Does her opinion change the facts?" "No." "Then let it pass." I nodded. "It still hurts sometimes." "Of course." He placed a hand on my shoulder. "But pain fades. The truth doesn't." I smiled. "I understand." Days later, Victoria uncovered another hidden account. The money trail was impossible to ignore. Luxury purchases, private investments, false invoices, forged signatures. Every discovery exposed another crack. Ryan smiled in public, but behind closed doors, panic was replacing confidence. Even Michael began asking difficult questions. "Ryan, what?" "These records. They're mistakes." "There are too many mistakes." Ryan looked away. "I'll explain everything." Michael sighed. "I hope you can." Lily noticed the inconsistencies. She saw Ryan avoiding simple questions. She watched him grow nervous whenever financial reports appeared. For brief moments, doubt crossed her face. But each time, she pushed it away. "No," she whispered to herself. "He wouldn't do this." She wanted that to be true, more than she wanted the actual truth. Watching everything unfold from a distance, I finally understood something my old self never could. Karma rarely arrives with dramatic speeches. It doesn't always need revenge. Sometimes people build their own prison. Then one lie becomes two. Two become 10. And eventually, the weight of their own deception is enough to bring everything crashing down. The news broke on a rainy Monday morning. I was eating breakfast when Sophia walked into the dining room, holding her phone. "Ethan." I looked up. "What happened?" "You should see this." She placed the phone in front of me. The headline covered the screen. "Charity director accused of fraud after financial investigation." I read every word in silence. Victoria Hayes had published her report. The evidence was overwhelming. Hidden accounts, forged documents, luxury purchases paid with donation money. Nothing was left to question. William folded his newspaper. So, it finally happened. I nodded slowly. The truth caught up with him. It always does. Campus felt different that day. Students gathered in small groups. Everyone was talking about Ryan. Oliver hurried toward me. You've seen the news? I have. It's even worse than we thought. How bad? Investors are pulling out. He lowered his voice. Michael Stone ended every partnership this morning. I wasn't surprised. Trust took years to build. One lie had destroyed it overnight. Across the city, reporters crowded outside Ryan's office. Police officers entered the building carrying boxes. Employees watched in silence. One officer spoke calmly. We need access to all financial records. Ryan forced a smile. This is a misunderstanding. We'll determine that. Another officer escorted him into a private interview room. Questions began immediately. The answers only created more problems. That afternoon, Lily visited the charity office. She looked frightened. A volunteer handed her a folder. You deserve to know. She opened it with shaking hands. Inside were copies of donation records. Her name appeared several times. Every contribution she had proudly made had been redirected. Some paid for expensive vacations. Others bought luxury gifts. One transfer had even paid Ryan's apartment rent. Tears filled her eyes. No, she whispered. This can't be real. The volunteer looked away. I'm sorry. I trusted him. I know. I defended him. No one answered. There was nothing left to say. 3 days later, someone knocked on the Harrington estate. I opened the door. Lily stood there. Her eyes were red from crying. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she whispered, Can we talk? I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. What do you want to say? She lowered her head. I was wrong. I stayed silent. I should have listened. Still silent. I accused you. She wiped away tears. I defended Ryan every single time. You did. I thought everyone was jealous. I know. She looked at me. I was the one who refused to see the truth. I nodded gently. You loved the person you believed he was. I ignored the person you really were. The words hung between us. She took a slow breath. Can you ever forgive me? I closed my eyes for a moment. Memories rushed back. The boy who waited outside her classroom. The young man who sacrificed his own dreams. The lonely life I had lived hoping she would someday choose me. I opened my eyes again. I forgive you. She looked up quickly. You do? Yes. Hope appeared on her face. Then I quietly continued. But forgiveness isn't the same as going back. Her smile disappeared. I understand. I wasn't sure she did. She stepped closer. I always believed. Her voice trembled. That no matter what I did. She paused. You would always stay. I smiled sadly. I know. I never thought you would leave. I didn't either. She covered her face. I took you for granted. You did. I'm so sorry. I believe you. She looked at me with desperate eyes. Can we start over? I shook my head. Not with anger. Not with bitterness. Simply with certainty. The person who spent his life waiting for you. I placed a hand over my heart. Doesn't live here anymore. A tear rolled down her cheek. I chose too late. Neither of us needed to say the answer. She already knew. The front door opened quietly. William stepped outside but kept his distance. He didn't interrupt. He simply waited. Lily noticed him and gave a respectful nod. I'm sorry for everything. William smiled kindly. I hope you find peace. She nodded. I hope so too. She looked at me one last time. I really did care about you. I know. I just didn't show it. I know. Another long silence passed. Then she whispered, Goodbye, Ethan. Goodbye, Lily. She turned and slowly walked toward the gate. I watched until she disappeared from sight. Sophia stepped beside me. Are you okay? I took a deep breath. I think I finally am. Does it still hurt? A little. She smiled gently. That's normal. I looked toward the empty road. For years, I believed happiness meant hearing Lily choose me. Today she finally had. But by the time her heart reached me, mine had already learned how to let go. Some stories end with two people finding each other. Ours ended with two people understanding why they never could. Trust, once broken, doesn't always ask for another chance. Sometimes it quietly closes the door and teaches both people to keep walking in different directions. Several months passed. Life became wonderfully ordinary. University classes filled my mornings. Business meetings filled my afternoons. Family dinners filled my evenings. Sometimes I caught myself smiling for no reason. Sophia noticed first. You've been smiling all week. Have I? You have. William looked over his glasses. That's usually a good sign. I think I'm finally enjoying my life. William nodded. You've stopped surviving. What do you mean? Now you're living. His words stayed with me. He was right. For years, I had measured every day by whether someone else accepted me. Now I measured my days by how much I had grown. That changed everything. One morning, William invited me into the company headquarters. The boardroom was already full. Executives stood when he entered. I hesitated. Should I wait outside? William smiled. No. This meeting is about you. I blinked. About me? He walked to the front of the room. Ladies and gentlemen. The room became silent. Today I want to introduce the future of part of our company. He looked toward me. Ethan. I slowly walked beside him. I've spent my life building this business. He continued calmly. But success means very little if you have no one worthy to continue it. Every executive listened carefully. William placed a hand on my shoulder. I officially welcome Ethan Harrington as the successor to one division of the Harrington Group. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Applause filled the room. I looked at William. Are you sure? He smiled. I've never been more certain. I still have so much to learn. And you will. I might make mistakes. He laughed. So did I. The room laughed with him. For the first time, I didn't feel like someone borrowing a place at the table. I belonged there. That evening, Oliver met me at our favorite cafe. You look shocked. I still am. So, he leaned forward. What's your first big decision? I smiled. I've been thinking about that. And I don't want my first project to be about making money. Oliver raised an eyebrow. Interesting. I wanted to change lives. He grinned. Now you've got my attention. I took out a notebook. I want to create scholarships for foster children. Oliver looked at me quietly. So they never feel forgotten. I nodded. So they know someone believes in them. He smiled. When do we start? You really want to help? I wouldn't miss it. I laughed. Then welcome aboard, partner. He reached across the table. Partner. We shook hands. When Sophia heard the idea, she smiled immediately. I've already thought of 20 ways to help. 20. Maybe 30. I laughed. You've been planning this? A little. She opened her laptop. I found counselors. She clicked another file. I contacted universities. Another file appeared. I even found volunteers. I stared at her. When did you do all this? The day you first told me about your foster home. I felt my throat tighten. You remembered. Of course I did. She smiled warmly. Family remembers. Those two words meant more to me than she could ever know. 3 months later, the foundation was ready. A large banner hung across the entrance. The New Beginning Scholarship Foundation. Children from foster homes filled the front rows. Teachers, volunteers, students, business leaders. William stepped onto the stage. This foundation exists because one young man refused to let pain define him. He looked toward me. Ethan. Applause echoed across the courtyard. I stepped forward. Looking at all those children, I saw pieces of my younger self. Scared, lonely, unsure. I smiled. I know what it feels like to believe you don't belong. The children listened closely. I also know that one kind person can change your entire future. I looked toward William, then Sophia, then Oliver. I was lucky enough to find those people. I paused. So today, I smiled at the children. I hope this foundation helps you find yours. The applause felt endless. But this time, it wasn't for success. It was for hope. Across the street, two familiar faces stood quietly. Emma smiled softly. He did it. Beside her, Lily watched the ceremony with tears in her eyes. He really did. Emma looked at her. Are you okay? Lily nodded. I am. You don't look sad. I'm not. She smiled through her tears. I'm happy. Emma gently squeezed her arm. For him. Lily nodded. He finally found the home he always deserved. Emma stayed silent. Lily looked toward the stage one last time. I wish I had understood sooner. So do I. But, she smiled sadly. I'm still glad he found it. Then they quietly walked away. A week later, the news reported Ryan's final court hearing. He admitted to multiple financial crimes. The judge accepted his confession. A prison sentence followed. Oliver turned off the television. Do you want to talk about it? I looked at the blank screen. No. You're not happy? I thought for a moment. I used to think watching him fall would heal me. And now, it doesn't. What heals you? I smiled. Everything I've built instead. That evening, I stood alone in the foundation garden. The sunset painted the sky with warm colors. I remembered the frightened 18-year-old boy who had awakened with memories of a broken life. He had believed happiness meant being chosen by someone else. He had been wrong. Real happiness came from choosing the right path, from growing stronger instead of bitter, from building a family instead of chasing approval. I smiled at my reflection in the window. For the first time in both my lives, I had become someone my younger self would have looked up to, and that was the greatest victory I could ever ask for. 2 years passed faster than I ever expected. The frightened 18-year-old I had once been felt like a distant memory. University was behind me. The foundation had grown beyond my dreams. Our scholarship program had helped hundreds of foster children. Today, another dream was becoming real. I stood beside William outside a beautiful new building. A bright sign hung above the entrance. Harrington Children's Center. Children laughed in the playground behind us. Their voices filled the air with joy. Sophia smiled as she adjusted the ribbon across the entrance. Everything's ready. Oliver checked his watch. The reporters are arriving. William looked at me. Nervous. I smiled. Not anymore. He laughed. I knew you'd say that. The crowd gathered. Cameras flashed. Families filled the courtyard. I looked around and felt something I had never known in my previous life. Peace. Not because life had become perfect, but because I had finally stopped searching for my value in other people's opinions. The ceremony began. William stepped to the microphone. Thank you all for joining us today. He spoke about hope. He spoke about second chances. Then he invited me forward. I walked onto the stage. The applause was warm. A reporter raised her hand. Mr. Harrington. I smiled. Yes. Many people say your success began the day you joined the Harrington family. I looked toward William, then toward Sophia, then at the children playing behind them. I smiled again. My life certainly changed when I found my family. The reporter nodded. But, I continued, my success didn't begin that day. She looked curious. When did it begin? I took a slow breath. It began the day I stopped begging people to choose me. The courtyard became quiet. In my old life, I believed happiness depended on someone loving me. I looked at the children. I thought my worth depended on being accepted. I shook my head gently. I was wrong. The day I chose myself, I smiled. Everything else began to change. The audience applauded, not because of my success, but because they understood the lesson. After the speeches, families walked through the new center. Children explored classrooms. Volunteers organized books and toys. Sophia laughed as several little boys challenged Oliver to a game of basketball. You don't stand a chance, she teased. Oliver grinned. I'll go easy on them. One little girl crossed her arms. No excuses when we win. Everyone laughed. William stood beside me, watching quietly. You built something special. We all did. He smiled. I always hoped you'd find your place. I did. And now I want to help others find theirs. He nodded proudly. I couldn't ask for more. Later that afternoon, I stepped into the garden behind the center. The flowers were blooming. The playground echoed with happy voices. I heard soft footsteps behind me. Ethan. I turned. Lily stood a few feet away. She looked peaceful, not sad, not hopeful, simply calm. I wanted to congratulate you. Thank you. She looked toward the children. They're lucky. I hope so. She smiled. You kept your promise. I frowned slightly. My promise. You said one day you'd build a life that belonged to you. I laughed softly. I almost forgot saying that. I didn't. Silence settled between us. Not the awkward silence we once shared. A comfortable one. She looked at me. I've started volunteering with local youth programs. Really? She nodded. I can't change the past. No. But I can make better choices now. I smiled. I think that's enough. She let out a quiet breath. I used to think losing you was my greatest regret. And now I think my greatest lesson was learning why. I nodded. We both learned something. She smiled. I suppose we did. For a moment, we simply watched the children playing. Then she turned toward me one last time. I'm happy for you. I know. And I'm finally happy for myself too. I'm glad. She extended her hand. This time, she smiled gently. Just as friends. I shook her hand. As friends. There were no tears. No promises. No unfinished feelings. Only acceptance. She walked toward the gate without looking back. I watched her leave. Not because I wanted her to stay, but because I genuinely hoped she found the happiness she had once been searching for. Sophia joined me a moment later. Everything okay? I nodded. Better than okay. She looked toward the playground. The kids adore this place. So do I. Oliver waved from across the yard. Ethan, what? We need your help. Coming. William smiled. Go. I started walking toward them. Halfway there, I paused. In my previous life, I believed I had lost everything. I died thinking love had abandoned me. I thought rejection had defined my entire existence. But life had given me one impossible gift. Another chance. Not to win someone back. Not to prove anyone wrong. But to discover the value I had never seen in myself. My rebirth had never been about revenge. It had always been about self-worth. About choosing hope over bitterness. Growth over regret. Family over loneliness. As children laughed around me, I realized I was exactly where I was meant to be. The future no longer frightened me. It welcomed me. And this time, I walked toward it with my head held high, knowing the greatest miracle of my second life was never becoming rich or successful. It was learning to choose myself before anyone else had the chance to reject me. That single choice had changed my destiny forever.